Nosferatu, Dracula, Edward, Count Chocula. The amount of vampires in popular culture is seemingly endless. Since their inception, vampires have consistently remained in the public eye and are one of the most recognizable monsters to date. And like with all popular monsters, we have got dozens, if not hundreds, of films trying to capitalize on their draw over the years. Some of my favorites would include Fright Night, Thirst, and the so often forgotten Daybreakers. And while they definitely don't have the same staying power as some other monsters for me, I can appreciate the mythos of the vampire and have enjoyed many vampire stories. With 2020, we've gotten a lot of bad films. While a handful of movies have really impressed me, nothing really besides The Invisible Man has impressed me on the horror front this year. However, I have been hearing quite a few good things about Vampires vs. the Bronx in the circles that I run in, and was really hoping to enjoy this. Although this is definitely more of a horror comedy than anything else, while The Invisible Man is mostly just straight horror, I find myself caring more about the themes present in horror films more than the scares themselves, and horror comedies tend to have pretty similar themes to straight horror films, so I was perfectly happy and content going into this film. When looking at the film from a presentation standpoint, it's mostly fine. Not a lot of the film looks especially great, the structure is nothing new, and the editing never does anything unique or interesting. That being said, everything in the film does work. While it doesn't look great, nothing necessarily looks bad, and most of the shots look decent at the very least. The structure is very generic and predictable, but this sometimes works quite to the advantage of the film, as much of it feels like a loving homage to the genre, more than a standalone film trying to break free from its tropes. And while the editing isn't anything interesting, it works well enough. And from my point of view, nothing ruins a film faster than bad editing. The biggest things going for this film are its central theme, its humor, and its lead characters. Its central theme, that gentrification is vampirism and is sucking the souls out of the places it victimizes, isn't necessarily a new metaphor. I have heard that statement many times, but to see it literally adapted to the screen was definitely a joy to see, and they adapted pretty well. Speaking to its humor, most of the jokes present in the film aren't anything mind-blowing. There are a lot of chuckles and laughs to be had, but most of that comes from the great comedic timing and comedic delivering from its cast. In addition, people's reaction faces to supernatural occurrences are almost always hilarious. I would even go as far as saying that a large percentage of my smiles and laughs from the film were directly from one of the 3 main cast members just reacting to spooky stuff. Now, if I were to try to pinpoint some of my problems with the film, I would mostly circle around the characters themselves. While I like the lead characters, as I stated before, I think that a lot of their personality and development is a little too surface level for my taste. There are so many interesting things about them that I think should just be dug into deeper just a little bit, but they never quite go far enough for my taste. Also, some of the supporting characters, such as Tony and Rita, are criminally underutilized, especially Rita. Most of the time she feels like she doesn't fit into the scene at all, and the strange pushes to put her into certain scenes completely throw off the pacing of the film. The film's like 90 minutes, maybe even less, but it feels really uneven in its pacing and makes it feel longer than it should be, while if they were adding a few more scenes with her to make her appearances feel more natural, then the whole pacing issue would be virtually non-existent, and the film would feel, in my opinion, shorter because the pacing would be so consistent. But as it stands, Vampires vs. the Bronx is exceptionally fun at times and a bit dull at others. It is at the very least somewhat enjoyable pretty consistently. So I am going to give this one a 6 out of 10.